When you think of some of the best games that were released last year, a couple great ones come to mind: Spider-Man 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Starfield, and plenty of others. But there's one for me that stood out amongst the rest, and that game is Alan Wake 2. And over the past year, that game has continued to win numerous awards, not just on the technical side, but on the gameplay and the story front, offering up one of the most unique experiences I've ever had the chance of playing. So when it was announced that the game would be getting an expansion pass, I knew that I had to pick it up so that I could keep playing and see what they were cooking up next. I reviewed and loved the base game, picking it as my game of the year last year, and when the first expansion released back in June, I had a lot of fun with the short little stories and the different perspectives that we got to play as in those. But the Lake House expansion aims to be more like the base game, utilizing that survival horror genre while also connecting the worlds of Control and Alan Wake, as Remedy has been building up their own little game universe over the past couple of years, and it's cool to finally see that come to fruition here in this expansion.
We have a situation in the lake house. All agents converge on the facility now.
Normally, I start all of my reviews with a technical block, but the expansion here is pretty much the same as the base game. The performance, really nothing else changed. They did add frame generation in the time that I've last played the game, which was a nice touch. But if you want to see a more in-depth, I guess, analysis of the technical aspects, I have my original review for the base game that I will go ahead and I will link up above. The only, I guess, bug that I currently have or am running into is one that is preventing me from getting an achievement. You have to read these documents and then watch a video. I've heard if you're playing on console, switching it over to quality mode, lowering the frame rate does help. But currently, I haven't been able to find a fix on PC, so if anyone does know, let me know down below. The story of the Lake House is actually set before the events of the base game in Alan Wake 2. And in this expansion, we take the role of FBC Special Agent Kieran Estevez, who is a character that appeared throughout the back half of the main game, played by the always lovely Janina Gavar. The teases for this expansion actually date all the way back to one of Control's expansions, where there were mentions of Cauldron Lake, Agent Estevez, and a facility called the Lake House. And while we'd always heard about this location, even seeing the entrance to it in the base game of Alan Wake, this is our first time actually being able to explore the said location, and what seems to be a simple office building turns out to be something that is much, much worse. This expansion is going to clock in roughly at about 2 hours of gameplay, maybe even shorter if you're just beelining through, which I would say does equal about to the same time that it would take to finish up the 3 chapters of Night Springs. I do personally wish it was just a little bit longer because I do love the base game, so there's really any excuse or reason for me to get more Alan Wake, I'm all for it. But for real, this is a little bit of a bittersweet moment because this is the end of Alan Wake 2's life cycle. All the expansions are going to be out, and they'll be moving on over to Control 2 or hopefully another Alan Wake game. But I had the same feeling when I was playing Cyberpunk's Phantom Liberty, where I didn't want to rush through anything. I wanted to take my time working through the expansion, grabbing all the trophies, reading all the notes, and really just taking it all in. Much like the base game of Alan Wake 2, this is going to involve you doing a little bit of light puzzle solving, some weird navigation that might have you turning in circles, and lastly, being scared of paintings. No, I'm serious. The mystery of this expansion is going to be trying to figure out what is causing the disturbances at the lake house and how you're going to put an end to them before they get out of hand. You'll progress floor by floor on your way down, with each floor having its own sort of theme as they house different sections of the research facility. These rooms and areas are actually where you're going to find a lot of the lore and backstory on the aforementioned lake house and the two head scientists, the Marmonts. These two were at odds with managing the place, bickering like an old married couple, well, because they were one.
Always remember the 3 S's: safety, security, and censorship.
It's a C. It's a C.
Why, that is the joke, Diana.
Well, it's a stupid fuck. Wonderful joke, Jules. We'll see you down there.
And over time, you'll see how the relationship fractured, not just the functionality, but also the integrity of the facility as well, with a little bit of more of the darker, deeper secrets that you do find out later. You even get a little cameo from Dr. Darling, which I thought was a nice little touch. If you're a Control fan, you know who that is. And as you delve deeper into the sublevels of the lake house, you'll start to notice these weird abstract paintings all over the place, which is where the new enemy type actually comes in. And I believe they're called the Painted, but these enemies can't be taken down by any conventional weapons like your pistol or your shotgun. So this is where the new Black Rock launcher comes into play. Black Rock is actually a mineral that is found in the oldest house in Control, and one of the scientists here was able to get their hands on it and retrofit a weapon that then fires it as a projectile. So you have to use this on the new enemies to take them out. It's pretty fun. It has like a charge up time and it just shoots a big explosion, basically like a grenade launcher. Now, if you played the first game of Alan Wake, you'll actually remember a chapter where you had to visit a lodge with other patients, and one of those patients happened to be Rudolph Lane, a painter who was taken here after the events of the first Alan Wake game and continuously forced to paint over and over again for the FBC. Because ever since 2010, the FBC have been trying to replicate or find a way to connect with Cauldron Lake like Wake did with his writing, believing that art is the key and that is the way to open up the threshold once again. This is the reason that you see so many of these paintings stretched out across the different levels of the lake house, and there's actually a particularly funny bit that you run across in one of the floors where you'll find a giant room full of a bunch of automatic typewriters that are trying to mimic the writing style of Alan Wake.
As you know by now, typewriters and Cauldron Lake do not mix. And a room full of them all clacking away? 100% bad news.
Right away, I knew what Remedy was saying here, and it's what the experimenters themselves never understood. It's that art isn't something that can be mimicked, copied, it isn't something that you can force, it just happens. And eventually you get it right after countless attempts, revisions, and trying. Not just by having some automated system type you up some best match chat GPT style. And I thought that that was a nice little pushback at that whole narrative of how art isn't something that can be forced. There's a particular line where I believe Alan mentioned something along the lines the art wasn't art anymore. It was just being made for content, essentially. And that really speaks to a lot of the ways that we consume art and content. Once you've reached the fifth floor is when you'll actually be confronted with a boss battle for this expansion. And now I won't spoil the boss battle, but there is something really cool that happens before the boss battle that I also won't spoil, but it does have a lot of broader implications for the Remedy connected universe as a whole and where that might be heading here in the future. And once the lake house situation is wrapped up, Agent Estevez actually has this sort of vision like state that Saga would go into, where she sees Alan Wake and he's writing the very scene that she's in right now, writing about finding him in Bright Falls in the woods, thus setting up her introduction in the base game. A year ago, I had not played the first Alan Wake, but I knew of the broader strokes of the story, and after 100%ing Alan Wake 2, I picked up the remastered version, gave it a whirl. While I didn't like the gameplay, the story was easily that driving force for me, and I definitely got a lot more out of the playthrough, I thought, having played Alan Wake 2 beforehand. Shortly after that, I dove into Control and all of its expansions, having played the base game but never getting around to those. And boy, was I missing out, especially with the AWE expansion. Like I said, also, I think I got a little bit more out of it. Having just played those games, it's a weird order, but this is the same person who played Mass Effect in 321. I played it in backwards order. So, yeah, it is a little weird. Now, you might wonder where I'm going with all this, and it's sort of a bittersweet moment for me because we're closing this chapter on the Alan Wake franchise. The Lake House expansion marks the end of the last year of content for Alan Wake 2, so to know that there isn't any more content for this game coming is a bit of a bummer. But when you look back on the game as a whole, you have a 16 to 20 hour story, a new game plus mode that adds new story elements, one of the best looking photo modes I've ever seen in a video game, and two varied yet really fun expansions that expand on the world and the lore of Alan Wake. If you played and finished the base game of Alan Wake 2, it's a no-brainer. I think you can safely pick up this expansion knowing that it's money well spent, and it helps add a little bit more to that overall story and the base game. And as of this recording, I believe the base game and its expansion are both on sale, so it's definitely worth your time and your money if it's on sale. So whether you just want to spend some time in the world of Alan Wake, or you just want something a little spooky to tickle your Halloween fancy, I think the Lake House will have you covered. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment down below. What did you think of the Lake House? Are you picking it up? And as always, if you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day. And this has been my review for Alan Wake 2's expansion, The Lake House. Thank you for watching.